Today we're going to be tearing down this IBM PS2 Model 50Z from 1988. It won't power up at all, so we'll diagnose that and figure out what's going on there. And we'll experiment with some modern replacement cards for these things, a McIDE to put some compact flash capability into this machine, along with a floppy drive converter. Once we get the hardware sorted, we'll get DOS on this thing, and as is tradition, fail to install a token ring network card. Let's get into it. Here we have an IBM PS2 Model 50Z. I'm a fan of all IBM PS2s, but the Model 50 is interesting for quite a few reasons. There were three variations of this machine released over the years, the first of which was simply called the Model 50, no Z in there, I'll explain that soon. And the first Model 50 was in the original lineup of PS2s when they first came out in 1987, alongside the models 25, 30, 60, and 80. If you're not familiar with these machines, PS2 stands for Personal System 2. They were the successor to IBM's original PC line, the one which literally created the personal computer industry. As I was saying, in that original lineup, you would have had this Model 30, meant as a stepping stone for some users from the PC world to the PS2 world. While living under the PS2 brand umbrella, and of course you can spot a PS2 from a mile away, they used a very consistent design language, this thing still uses the ISA bus, which literally stands for Industry Standard Architecture. Just like any PC at that time, you could plug regular old ISA cards into it. This is an Ethernet NIC, for example. Most PS2 machines, however, use something called Microchannel Architecture, or MCA. While this Model 30 on the left here can accept that ISA card, the Model 50Z here and most other PS2 models only accept MCA cards. Here is an example of an MCA card. It happens to be a token ring network adapter. And you can see, compared to the ISA adapter here, quite the physical difference. And the MCA looks a lot more like the PCI variants that would come after it. MCA and the PS2 line in general was IBM's attempt to wrestle the PC industry back fully into their control, the same way they had always dominated the mainframe market. The original PCs were created with off-the-shelf parts, and this allowed folks like Compaq to reverse engineer the PC and create so-called clones, which were in many cases better than IBM's offering. IBM hated this and went full steam ahead on this PS2 line with its proprietary MCA bus. It didn't work. Even in magazine articles the year the PS2 line came out, you can find a healthy dose of skepticism. In November of 1987, an InfoWorld journalist writes, IBM learned its lesson from the PC, XT, and AT. IBM deliberately set out to ensure that competitors would not be able to make PS2 MCA-compatible systems if IBM didn't want them to. IBM doesn't want them to. He concludes with, it isn't going to work. How right he was. As a side effect of trying to redefine the PC industry with this PS2 line, IBM did a bunch of odd non-standard stuff with these PS2s, not least of which is often using a hard drive interface called ESDI, making it near impossible to hunt down original drives for a lot of these machines. But it's not all bad news. The PS2 line gave us the PS2 connectors for mouse and keyboard, which became the standard until USB took over, is partly responsible for the proliferation of 1.44 megabyte 3.5-inch floppy drives, and believe it or not, VGA was invented for the PS2 line, which became the de facto standard for many years and is still widely in use to this day. We're going to crack into this thing and tear it all apart and see what's going on in there before we try to power it up, but I think I mentioned there's something funny about the Z in the name. You can see here I've got a Model 50Z. That stands for Zero Wait State. Apparently, the original Model 50 and its Intel 286 inside was too fast for the RAM they had originally shipped this with, and maybe some other stuff. And so basically they would not arbitrarily, but they would force the CPU to wait. It's called a wait state for the RAM to sort of catch up, and it would basically be really slow. And a bunch of users, I think, were very unhappy about this. And they fixed this with the Z. It's kind of funny that they just went all in. They're like, yeah, it's the zero wait state one now. Too bad you bought the first one. I think that's kind of funny. But anyway, this is the better model, I guess. Let's have a look around this thing. It doesn't have any hard drives, doesn't have any drives, not even a floppy drive inside. But I've got some modern adapter boards and replacements that I'd like to play around with if we can get this thing working later in the video. It's in okay physical condition. It's pretty dingy. Looks like this maybe, yeah, looks like that's going to scrape off for us. So if we can get it working, I'll clean it all up and shine it up a little bit. I'm having a hard time believing this poorly cut Made in USA label was put on by IBM, but maybe. And the bigger problem, the only physical damage on this thing is the power switch has broken off. I think that's a pretty common fault. I unboxed this in a Patreon video a little while ago, and I was complaining that I don't remember that from the eBay listing, but sure enough, this is how they took pictures of it. And when you glance at it, it kind of looks like there's a button in there. Even now I'm glancing through the camera and it kind of looks like it's there, but it's not. So we'll just have to have this in the up position and power it on by plugging it in. That is, of course, assuming it even works. We'll find out. User ID LNTrain4 sticker here from back when it was in service. Anyone know what that might mean? The top case is metal. The rest is plastic, which is sort of nice. And it seems big by a computer sitting on your desk. Today's standards, that's not a tower. But if you compare this to like the original IBM PC or the AT or the XT, this would have been sort of compact and pretty impressive for the time, I think. Around back, we've got power in, a lock, which is unlocked, thankfully, the PS2 keyboard and mouse. They just have this embossed icon for the keyboard, and it's interesting. I have a slightly newer IBM PS2 55SX, and they actually had the mouse symbol on there as well. Just sort of an interesting variation between the PS2 models. I suppose you only need to know one or the other to get it right, though. A little bit further right, we've got serial and printer, parallel port, and VGA, and you can see there, one of the pins is missing. I don't remember exactly why or what that's called, but in earlier variants of VGA, that pin would be missing, and it was really common to mod cables like this and cut out the pin there so that you could use it, and it'll work just in any normal VGA monitor, I believe. And then further right, we've got 3 MCA slots, and one of them is populated with a token ring card, as if I hadn't already cornered the market on token ring MCA cards. So that'll be cool to see if this thing works. I think one of the complaints back in the day when this came out is this wasn't enough expansion, I think. So yeah, it was really common in the ISA, PC days when not a lot was on board, including video, that you'd want, as many expansion slots as you could get your hands on. If you read articles on this Model 50, one of the things people will kind of remember it for or rant and rave about is its toolless capabilities. So it's just got this one captive thumb screw on the back, and then you can, I was about to pull it this way for some reason, and then it slides forward, of course. So let's carefully slide this all the way off and up. The inside of the front panel, where the drive bays are, you can see there are these little clips that clip it to the metal case, and one of mine has already broken. There's supposed to be 4 total. I've only got 3 now. This was rolling around in the case. I don't know if I did that or shipping or whatever. It's my understanding that those break really easily, and I can tell you, yeah, pretty brittle. It's kind of amazing that I've even got 3 total left. So I am going to try to keep it that way, and you can see if this thing works. We've got a little scrubbing and cleaning to do all over the place. Here we are looking at it from the front, and you can see we've got these like little clips that we'll start undoing later. There's no screws. You kind of can just unclip everything and take these sections out. You've got this riser board for the 2 front drive bays, this very long power supply. I was also reading that these were slightly underpowered for the machine, so some of the components in here can get quite hot over the years. Hopefully this one still works. I suppose we can take our token ring card out just to have a look at it. I actually don't know how this unlatches. Does it unlatch? Maybe it's not coming out. Oh, there we go. I'll bet you this is a token ring adapter A. In fact, it's near identical to the card I was showing you earlier, which is also one of those. Though we do have some slight variation with this, whatever this sort of chip thing is here, looks a little different there, obviously. The one on the right came out of the machine, and it's got some 1988 ROM codes on it, and the one I happened to grab from my stack has some 1991 dates, so this card's a little older. Now, after the MCA slots, we get into our second bit of PS2 IBM proprietary funny business. The floppy drive that would have shipped with this machine would have an edge connector right on the back, and there's like a little tray that it mounts to here and slides right in there. And obviously, you're not going to have a lot of luck with a standard floppy drive with the ribbon cable and the 4-pin Molex there. That is where these come into play. The PS2 to standard floppy adapter. TechSelect has been selling these for years. I've got a couple of these, and it can kind of trip you up. I have another PS2 that I had originally bought this for, but it doesn't have that edge style connector for the floppy drive. Luckily, the floppy drive in there works, but I'm gonna have to find some other sort of ribbon cable adapter for that one. But for today, I think this is gonna work just fine. We'll be able to slap that in there and theoretically get a floppy drive on this thing, which is critical, as you'll see. You can't actually do anything with these things without the floppy drive, really. Further back in the case, this is where a hard drive would have gone, into this riser board coming off right here. I believe this thing uses an ESDI controller, so again, the hard drive would have had an edge connector going off the back there, and in fact this entire riser looks like it just comes out. Maybe. There we go. Looks like it was actually just plugging into another MCA slot hiding down in there. Closer look at the hard drive riser, pretty simple. Just passing some lines down, I think. I was looking at the back and thinking maybe there was some corrosion at one point, but that's where it actually just makes contact with these back bumpers, and it might be slight corrosion, like maybe some moisture got trapped in there or something. That won't be a problem because we're not going to be able to use that anyway. I recently picked up a modern MCA to IDE converter replacement that we're going to try. This is a McIDE-CF from zzxio.com. It is an MCA card, as you can see, and it lets you put compact flash cards or an IDE drive and use those as the hard drive in a PS2. I've never used this. I'm pretty excited to try it out. Sprung for the floppy disk with the adapter description files and everything. So if this machine doesn't blow up immediately when we turn it on, we'll try this out. Now back to these white plastic clips I was showing you. They're all over the board. You can see a bunch of them in the back here as well, holding down all these plastic riser board things that all the peripherals slide into. And if this thing was new, right under the speaker, I believe there would have been a tool plugged into this square hole, I think, for the toolless IBM Model 50. And that tool would let you slot under here and pop these up so that you can take everything apart. Now, of course, I can just get in here and pull really hard, or, you know, use some other tool. But through the magic of a 3D printer my buddy left here 4 years ago, because he doesn't have room in his basement, I 3D printed another one. Let's see how we did. I have not used that 3D printer in quite some time. I guess we'll take the tray off first. I think this whole thing's supposed to pop free. Just took a little bit of persuasion to get some of the infrastructure for the part off. Yeah, I think this pops right into that square hole. Right down in there. It would snap in under the speaker so you couldn't lose it. Someone lost it, apparently. But it's actually, so you can pull it up with your hands, but some of these are in tight spots, and the tool just makes it pretty effortless. Snap another one here. See if I can. There we go. I have to imagine these break all the time as well. Yeah, this tool's pretty slick. Oh, that one's tough. Yikes. I'm gonna go around and pop everything out. Looks like you're supposed to pop it maybe 2 clicks. This was so worth it. This makes it so much easier. The little nubs to put it in that square peg have already broken off from the 5 clips I just popped. Hopefully this part survives and stays strong, though. That's all I really care about. But there are some tricky, hard to get ones. Of course you could do it with another tool or whatever, but it's nice to have this. I have to stress again that people love this toolless Model 50, but ideally you would have had the tool it came with. Popped all the clips with my little tool here, so we'll start taking this thing apart. Now, I'm not usually one to dive in and dismantle something before I just plug it in and hope for the best, but I wanted to get far enough to see if there's RAM in here. And in fact, right down in there, I can just barely see the single SIM RAM slot is populated, probably 1 megabyte. I think that was stock. 2 megabytes is the max. On this 50Z, there was only the 1 slot. I think there were 2 slots on the original Model 50, and I'm pretty sure it's some IBM proprietary RAM situation, so that would have been a problem. Luckily, it's way down in there and hard to get to, so it doesn't get pilfered very often, I think. Let's check out the battery situation. Looks like lifted out of its clips like that. This is a Panasonic 6-volt lithium battery, and believe it or not, they still make these. I guess they're used in cameras or something. Let's check the voltage on this one. 3 volts. Not bad. I wonder if that's enough to run the machine. Maybe we'll try it out and see if we can persist some settings. Like I was saying, you can still buy these, and I have of course bought one that is slightly too large, but maybe we can jam it in there. Otherwise, I'll hunt down this exact size. That is annoying. I think the first thing we do is we get this fan out of here. Yeah, that was easy. Just a little edge connector down to the board there. And then it sure looks like this whole thing just comes out at once. But like, how likely is that? Something's holding us up here. Oh no, just friction. Okay, it's happening. Didn't have that one fully undone. Same with that one. Yeah, it's kind of like too, wow, there we go. I'll unplug the speaker. Yeah, that was pretty cool. This whole thing comes out. That really wasn't that bad. Looks like we've got that stick of RAM and some dust. I'm not seeing anything too concerning. A fuse back there that's not blown. The only thing I'm concerned about are these yellow guys. These are tantalum capacitors, and they have a habit, after many years of being heated up and turned on and used, of exploding when you turn them on after a long time. I'm particularly concerned about these bigger ones back here that might be power related. This is where all the power comes in to the board. And then you can see this very likely proprietary IBM RAM. You can see it's got these big metal cans on it. While we're here, I'm just going to dust this off a little bit. See, that's pretty much the only thing wrong with this thing. Can't complain about that. Knocked a bunch of the dust off and hit everything with some contact cleaner. Let that dry out for now. I also cleaned off the edge connector of this riser board for the floppy disks. It was surprisingly dirty on there, considering it's just been in its connector this whole time. And right here you can see there's this black metal wire coming through the plastic, and the riser board is actually latched on with it, I guess, to make sure you bring the whole thing up as one unit. Cleaned up the power supply a little bit, and it's like really loose in here. I don't know if that's normal, but without the case on, it's really easy to get in there and flip it into the on position. Left all my clips popped out, but the riser board is inserted properly along with the fan. I only want to pop these in and out as many times as I need to, and if something goes wrong, we might have to go back in here. Power supply is in the up position. Got us all plugged in, and I guess there's nothing left to do but to try it out. So hopefully we don't blow up some capacitors. Let's see. Ooh, that's not good. So what I heard was a light click and maybe a hum sound coming out of the power supply. The fan tried to turn, but did not. Let's try that again. I think I'm hearing the speaker make noise. Does not sound good. Let's play with this a little bit. I think we have a power supply issue. I'm going to take this off. We'll open it up, see if there's anything obvious. That sure seems like a power supply issue to me. It looks like I'll be able to unbolt it and slide it off the main board without actually undoing the main board, hopefully. My screwdriver just broke. What the heck? Got this one flathead screw right here on the front, and it is really in there. 2 more coming off the back right here, and I think that's it. Yeah, looks like I can slide it out of the edge connector there. That's what the power supply slides onto. I don't see anything wrong. It's not doing anything exotic. -12, +12, and +5-volt rails coming out of that edge connector here. It's just got a bunch of these security Torx bit things all around the perimeter, so I'll get all those out. Someone has been in here before. You can see that sticker's been cut where the case comes apart. So what are we going to learn? It looks like a well-made board. I'm not seeing any signs of capacitors leaking. I find it very hard to believe that these large Nichicon capacitors are having any trouble. All of the other capacitors are not bulging in any obvious way, nor are they leaking, like I was saying. It does have its own fuse way back in there that I'll check for continuity, though that behavior where I could kind of hear a whine and the speaker was crackling a little bit leads me to believe that fuse is just fine. I'm not seeing any signs of heat damage or anything like that on the front, so what I'm going to do is pull the board off, and this little one right here, take a look on the back for signs of heat causing broken solder joints, or maybe there are some broken solder joints. Basically look for anything suspicious. Now these lights on the front never actually turned on, and if we follow where those wires are routed, they make their way back into here, into the power board. That to me seems like we've got a situation on this power supply rather than the computer halting it from proceeding. I doubt it's that sophisticated anyway. That was a little more work than you'd hope it would be. I'm not seeing anything obviously wrong. No broken joints, no cold solder joints, nothing like that. I do see areas of the board where it's clearly gotten hot, but nothing too scary for a power supply this old. I think there's like big resistors on the other side of those, so maybe that's suspect. Got it more or less back together, and I'm going to start by just cleaning up the edge connector, and all this gunk was on there. Just for, like, the more I clean it, the more I'm getting, you know. Going to power it up like this, you know, nice and safe. All I've done is look at it and clean that edge connector. Oh, maybe I should plug the fan in, just so I can see if it's doing something. Good enough. Yeah, I can hear the speaker whine. I'm just going to leave it for a while. I don't think it's a power supply, or if it is, it's something a little more sophisticated. I was running it without load. Don't know if you're supposed to do that. And I could find all the voltages, negative 12, 12, and 5, where the diagram says they should be on the pinout. So I think maybe the computer is what's stopping us. Also of note, when it's plugged in independently, both LEDs illuminate, which was not happening when it was connected to the computer. And pins 49 and 50 on this large connector on the power supply are system status and power good. So the computer, I think, is talking to this thing somehow. Again, I don't know if any of this matters, but the first thing I'm going to do is clean the RAM socket and reseat it. And I hate these SIM module slots. You can see this plastic clip I just released is broken on the other side, so it might not even be getting like a good connection there. That's what that thing looks like. Kind of cool looking. Yeah, it's a little gunky in there. If that makes no difference, I'll pull these ROM chips, clean the pins, reseat, and I did check that this fuse is just fine. I'm guessing no difference, but we'll see. Okay, I'm more and more convinced it's not the power supply, and I think I found out what's going on. Got this in continuity mode, so it's going to beep at us when the probes are connected through a circuit or otherwise. And so I'm just going to go to this known ground point over here. And right here we can see what should be negative 12, 12 volts, and then a bunch of 5 volts. And if I slide along the 12 and 5, of course, we're not seeing anything. On the other side of this connector are all the grounds. So I can beep out 5, 12, negative 12. Now, I'm connected to ground over here. Look what happens when I touch the negative 12 pad. A complete circuit. So what's happened? Something is shorting negative 12 to ground. And I think that's our problem, and I think it's this tantalum right here. Getting kind of lucky with proximity to the fault here, but here is negative 12, and it goes right into that leg. So of course those are connected. I think with these 3-leg tantalums, the other side is supposed to be the positive. So that's connected. What should not be connected is ground in the middle. It is shorted. These two are connected, and these two are connected, and that should not be the case. I think I've got a healthy one over here, at least for now, and you can see left and middle not connected, right and middle not connected. We can't hear the multimeter. So this guy's bad. I'm going to get this main board, or Planar, out of here, as IBM would call it. And we're going to pull that cap, and we'll bypass it if we need to. I think the machine will live without that capacitor in place. It's just the negative 12 volt rail. And then I'm going to take pictures of all the other ones, because what's going to happen is if I can actually bypass that and get this thing running, it's only a matter of seconds or minutes or days before these other caps go on me and start shorting. So I'm going to need to recap this whole thing, which won't be too bad. I'm only seeing like 10 of them or something. I got all the screws out, and this part moves pretty freely, but something is clearly holding it in over here, and I'm not sure what. Granted, it usually is these little bolts, but man, it really did not physically look like it on this particular machine. I think that's what's holding me up, though. It wasn't that. What am I missing? There's like nothing left. I think it was just really, really stuck in there. And you have to use way more force than you'd prefer. Oh, there we go. Wow, that was bad. Interesting. So here's our culprit on the back side of the board. These are all ground, and the middle one is ground, of course. The problem is internally it has shorted the other side to ground, and you can see they're actually connected by this trace. They're supposed to be just connected. So what this means, I believe, is I can just pull this thing out and it'll fix our problem, hopefully. I'm going to do that. Suppose I could just cut it out, but I'll heat the iron up and see if I can't get it out properly. You kind of know you're onto a good project when the workbench starts looking like this. Got it removed. You can see it's just missing now, and if we do our same test where I was using like a known ground, we should have ground at the bottom. We do, but we should no longer be shorted on 12 volts. And we aren't, negative 12 volts, and the negative 12 makes it all the way to the other side where the cap used to be, so let's put this back together. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I've got it back together. I know I was making jokes about it being toolless, but you needed a tool. But even if we can't get this thing working today, I've been having fun actually working on it. It's very ergonomic. You can tell a lot of thought went into it. To be fair, maybe that's what all the articles were about. Okay, this is on. We're spinning. Green light. I can see the VGA. 1 mega RAM. Yes, we fixed it. It's not going to be happy about not having anything, really. Just beeped a couple times. Yeah, this is no surprise. Wow, yeah, it drops you right into basic. This thing is working. It's unfortunately only a matter of time before the other capacitors go bad, but we're going to roll with it. We're going to run with it. Yes. Okay, let's get a floppy drive on this thing. There are allegedly drive caddies you can 3D print, but obviously my 3D printer needs a little bit of a recalibration. So this will be good enough for now. I have created the all-important reference disk. These IBM PS2s have a very limited BIOS, meaning they have just enough code in those ROMs, actually, we were looking at earlier, to bootstrap and look for a floppy or look for a hard disk that can take over and let you control and configure the rest of the computer. I don't know if this was like a cost-saving measure or perhaps it was innovative for the day, but basically you're going to need a working floppy drive and you're going to need the correct reference diskette for your IBM PS2 model to get anywhere with these things. The good news is they've all been archived. So the biggest website for PS2 information, or maybe the most famous, I guess, there's several, is the Ardent Tool of Capitalism. It had my Model 50Z reference disk image, and that's what we've got right here, which kind of sounds like I'm complaining, but a lot of the time with this retro hobby, the software is what kills you. But in the case of the PS2, it has been pretty religiously archived by a bunch of enthusiasts, and that continues to this day, along with the 3D print capabilities. Very cool. One of the things I like to do with floppy drive connectors, especially one that I know I'm going to take a floppy drive in and out a million times, I cut this little pin, this little nub off. It just makes your life so much easier. That might be controversial, but now it's not getting stuck on there or anything. I hate this 4-pin floppy Molex style connector because of that stupid nub. It's like, it makes it so hard to pull the cord out of the floppy drive. And if you know you're just going to be switching these in and out, which obviously this is not a permanent setup, just cut it off. And it's not like you're going to, like, you know, move houses, then your floppy drive stops working. You know, just pop the case, see if it fell out. Also, it's not going to fall out. The office of the future, the IBM PS2. This thing really wants to take off on me when it's sitting here because these cables are pushing it. So here it sits. I'm going to put the reference disk in. I'm also going to hook up a mouse and keyboard this time, like so. Let's power this thing on, see if we can't get some floppy action. It's my understanding that it should just boot. I'm going to flip the power. Oh, it feels so good to hear that thing turn on. Look at that. Checking RAM. 301. I'll have to go look that up. I hear it hitting the floppy. It is definitely loading the reference disk. This takes a while. Yes, no better sight. The IBM Personal System 2 Model 50 reference diskette from 1991. I'm going to press enter. Pressing enter is doing nothing. So close. Oh no. I don't know if you can tell, but the lights on the, you know, like num lock, caps lock, scroll lock on the keyboard are just flickering rapidly. Oh man, I'm going to get an older keyboard. That's not good. What if we got this far and the keyboard port doesn't work? All right, I got a different keyboard. I'm almost positive I've used this with an IBM, another IBM PS2. The irony being, of course, that the PS2 line created this standard. It'd be funny if Microsoft did it better than IBM. I also blasted the thing with contact cleaners, which very well could have been the problem. They're just all lit now. You aren't going to be able to tell. They're not blinking anymore anyway. Does enter work? It doesn't. Oh no. What does this mean? Could the keyboard controller be bad on the main board? Okay, I'm pulling out the oldest keyboard I've got, and I'm going to need to use an adapter to get it to PS2. And the irony, oh no, it's the wrong direction. This adapter won't work. I don't know why, but this disgusting piece of crap works. I'm able to press enter. It's kind of suspicious that, like, you know, because of the Windows key, all these were too new. This one has a Windows key. And anyway, let's move on. Got the old adapter configuration error. Let's automatically configure the system. PS2 was kind of cool. Like, if you put it in context, like, this machine came out, I think, in 1988. At least the Model 50 came out in 87 and would have worked the same way. It's kind of like plug and play before plug and play, as hopefully we'll see. We'll try to get a token ring card working or whatever. It's going to restart. Old Belkin to the rescue. Hopefully I won't have to use this key. Oh, that comes off. Ugh. It didn't throw any errors after this restart. So I think that battery, that 3-volt charge battery might be okay. Very glad to be able to say enter. Yeah. This machine is ready for a hard drive. What time does it think it is? I think time's a feature. It thinks it's 1997. We are going to let it think that. Okay, let's have some fun, shall we? I want to get this McIDE into this 50Z. I've got this 32 gig compact flash card that we should be able to slide in the back there. I have no idea if this will work. I kind of doubt it. These things, generally speaking, IDE to compact flash are kind of particular about their cards. I've got some slower ones and smaller ones floating around here somewhere. I can't find them. We're just going to go in blind, see how it goes. Remember, if you were buying an MCA card back in the day, there's no internet. You just have what came with the package. And in my case, this is what came with the package. So let's see what happens. I think we're going to want to take out this blanking slot, and I'm going to need a screwdriver. Toolless my ass. Just kidding. This thing has been clearly exposed to like an insane amount of like grit or something. Okay. Probably not a lot of these floating around in the world anymore. We're going to slide it in. Whew. Okay. Nice. And then on the back here, these compact flash carts only go in one way. They're sort of keyed. So we're going to slide that in. And you can imagine having them hanging off the back there is pretty convenient. I have a USB to CF card adapter. I haven't tried it, of course. I've never used this card, but theoretically I could put files on there from a modern machine. I was showing you earlier, it has 2 CF slots, internal, external, and then of course IDE with a Molex header here for an actual IDE drive or an IDE to CF converter, I think, in some cases. I have no idea how this thing selects between any of these 3 or if it exposes all of them. I really don't know. So let's figure it out. Recalling from a YouTube video I watched like 3 years ago, I think you're supposed to just boot from the reference disk after you've added new hardware. And the idea is there's going to be an option in there to copy drivers from a disk like this to the reference disk, I think. Let's see. Let's get in here. I don't know. It didn't notice the drive, so I'm going to go to copy an option diskette. I think that's what I had seen. Now it's saying take the ref disk out and insert the new files disk. So I'll do that. This is the reference diskette. The machine's running, of course. The McIDE adapter description files. Let's see. If this gets us nowhere fast, I promise I'll just go do some real research, but it's kind of fun to see if you can just figure it out. Press enter. I think it thinks it found some. Now we're supposed to swap the disks again. I'm going to do that. Presumably it just put them in memory and it's going to transfer them to the disk now. It says enter. Yeah, copying to reference diskette. Pretty slick. Okay, it says update complete. Ensure that the ref disk is in the default drive. It is. There's only one. I don't know what to do at this point. Set configuration. I'm going to view configuration. It doesn't see any drives. It thinks the slots are empty. That's not good. Yeah, I would say it does not see that card I installed. I'm going to put it in a different slot. I moved it 1 slot over, and now if I restart, it's asking me about installed or removed an adapter, so of course I did. I had restarted prior, but I didn't do a full power off, power on. Maybe that's required after you do the setup disk thing. Plus yes. It's also possible the battery is just acting up. Oh, look at that. XTIDE. It's trying to boot from C. There's nothing on there, of course. Okay. I don't know how to use this thing. I think I can press A? Shift A? I don't know how to make it boot. F2 boot menu. Doesn't work. F8 ROM boot. Doesn't work. Stuck booting from C. This is good. The card's working, obviously. Yeah, I just got to learn how to use it. Oh, and very good news, it found that 32 gig drive as the first disk, so maybe we will be able to use it. Of course, DOS won't be able to see the whole thing, but that's no big deal. Just restarted. You just have to catch it fast enough. Those options at the top, you got to hit those right away. I pressed A, and it says it's booting from A, and I can hear it try to boot from the reference disk, and of course, there is our reference disk. This power supply gets so ridiculously hot right here, by the way. Like so hot that I want to like knock to a fan mod it, or fan mod it or something. It deserves a fan. It would be better if I had the case on, because this thing would be sucking air through the case and over this and through the vents and stuff. But yeah, wow. So everyone always gets excited about these PS2s and they're like, oh, why don't you install OS2, the operating system IBM and at first Microsoft were pushing, and then Microsoft deviated and they made NT and so on and so on. That could be a whole series of videos. Really, honestly, DOS 3.3 was super common, officially supported for this machine, and is what people would have been running. I don't even know if you can run OS2 on 1 mega RAM, and not to mention that it wasn't even out when the original IBM Model 50 came out, I'm pretty sure. We're going to try to install DOS 3.3 on this McIDE. Back in the 80s, IBM used to ship their software in these awesome binder box things, and DOS 3.3 was no exception. Gotta love this neon floppy art. Let's get into this thing. In case you didn't know, DOS stands for Disk Operating System. And this paper here is just super high quality. It's like almost glossy. It's in the binder. Look at all this stuff. That's color, so it's not just black and white print either. Truly incredible. Let's get in here. That's right, my copy of DOS here, I think it's just the one disc from '87. But for whatever reason, someone threw in this IBM Personal System starter diskette. It's kind of like a reference diskette we were just using. But for that Model 30 I was showing you way back in the beginning of this video. Let's get DOS out here. And I think what I want to do is boot from this DOS Startup Operating System diskette. And then we'll see if we can format that drive. I don't know. I'm going to do a little research before we continue. Then we'll boot from this so I don't waste your time. Just did a little research. I think I have a pretty good handle on it. We're going to boot off that DOS disk. Is this not a riveting sight? I'm definitely going to have to 3D print some stuff. New button. I've been turning it on that way because I can, because the bezel's not there. You hit A really quick. So I just did. Now you can see it saying booting A. Oh, non-system disk, huh? That's too bad. I bet this fancy new Sony floppy drive can't read this disk. We'll just write another one. Round 2. Let's see how this goes. Well, it's just stuck here, trying to boot from that disk. It's not a hardware issue. They can boot to the ref disk just fine from that menu. Alright, that was MS-DOS. Let's try PC-DOS. Should just be the same, but this one's from IBM, even though Microsoft made it. Non-system disk. Been messing around, and I think I have a handle on what was going on. As you can see, I have successfully booted from the floppy to PC-DOS 6.1. My hunch is that I was writing DOS images that weren't 1.44 megabytes from DOS 3 and DOS 4 or whatever, and I was trying to put them on these 1.44 megabyte floppy disks. I don't know if that's actually the problem, but the moment I found a version of DOS, PC-DOS 6.1, which natively came with 1.44 megabyte images, booted right up just fine. So the good news is this thing appears to be working just fine. I can boot to some good DOS images. We're going to try to get DOS installed on it. Went through my stash and found a 1 gig flash card. That's the smallest one I can find. It'll be better than 32 gigs anyway. Hopefully it's bootable. Let's try to install DOS on that thing. It's complaining that it doesn't understand what's going on drive C, so let's press enter to try to fix that. I think that's just going to drop us here. Yep. Let's run fdisk and hopefully we can see that thing. Let's take a look at the partition information there. No partitions defined. Okay, we are going to create a DOS partition, primary. Let's use the max available and see what it does. That's nice. You're supposed to restart after running fdisk, and this one just forces you to. I wonder, well, maybe it's not nice. I don't know. Or is it, maybe you want to do something after fdisk. Okay, I'm going to restart. I'll stop talking. Here we go. When you're quick enough, you can press A at the XT IDE BIOS. Booting A. What was happening with those other DOS disks I burnt is you'd hear the floppy drive seek and it would go green for just a moment and then nothing. Light would turn off. Totally dead. Couldn't boot. But with this floppy disk image, you can see we're booting just fine into PC-DOS. All right, same menu. I think we want to format now. Format C, hopefully. Okay. Oh, C's a whole gig. Not bad. It thinks it's done. Can we go to the C drive? We can. This is looking pretty promising. I gotta go look up how to install DOS. I'm actually gonna stop here briefly. This is my only good floppy drive. I have some that are in machines. I don't want to pull them out. This is my only working floppy drive at the moment. Tried to do a little repair on this one so I didn't have to keep pulling this one out, but no luck yet. Anyway, I gotta go make the rest of the disks. I only made the first DOS setup disk. I think there's at least 2 more. I'm gonna go do that now. Let's get booted back up here. Made all the PC-DOS 6.1 disks. Don't know how many I'll need. And look at that. It thinks everything is okay. I'm gonna press enter. We're getting a different message here than last time. It is March 25th, 1997. Whatever. I'm just gonna accept all the defaults. This is gonna take a while. I think it's gonna copy everything to the C drive. You can see it's writing and reading stuff at the bottom there. Yeah, this is going to be a while. I'll be back. While this progresses away, I wanted to say I never quite ever understood why there's all these YouTubers and enthusiasts and hobbyists that really like messing around with DOS stuff. I was born in 1988, the year this machine was... Oh, disk 2. I knew I was going to need it. Perfect. We'll do that together. So, like I was saying, I was born in 1988. So I remember using DOS, and I remember using Windows 3.1, but really my foundational computer core memories are Windows 95 and up. Never really, got good at DOS, I guess. But as I'm messing with this machine and going through trials and errors, I mean, we're not out of the woods yet. Who knows if this will even succeed. I'm having a good time. I think I understand now. I get it. I get it. DOS is actually really fun to mess around with. Should we mail in the registration card to be eligible for valuable savings? Skipped right over disk 3, wants disk 4 now. I guess I don't feel so stupid making all 5 disks. It says it's done. Remove all the disks and restart. Now, what could happen is for some reason it can't boot off that. This is the final test. I've heard that there are some flash cards, CF cards that aren't bootable. Maybe that was SD card. Well, anyway, let's see what happens. Restarting. I'm, of course, going to let the XT IDE do its thing and try to boot from C. Starting PC DOS. That is a good sign. Oh, man. This is looking good. Come on. Yes! Oh, look at this. PC DOS 6.1 installed. All right. Yeah, okay. I don't know how to use it. Look at this. Oh, man. This is so cool. So I can go to the command prompt. I'm just tabbing around to get to these different areas of the windowing manager. Is there something cool we can run? Probably not, huh? Well, okay. How good is this? The IBM 50Z, back from the dead, running IBM DOS. Okay, as is tradition, let's see if we can ruin this whole setup with a token ring card. This is the IBM token ring card that came with that computer, with the D-sub connector there. It's a 16.4. Token ring is a competitor to Ethernet that I have been dabbling in. It uses some pretty impressive and interesting physical hardware to hook up the network. And these cards are how you would get your computers, or what are called ring stations, into the ring. And everything I've been doing lately is building up towards a bigger and bigger token ring network, even if you can't tell if you're a regular viewer. Now, this came in the machine. It's got some 1988 date codes on the ROMs. I'm sure the driver disks are around for this thing, but I have what is essentially the same card, just slightly newer, complete in box, and it's got the disc. So let's give that a shot first. And by new in box, I mean not really used. Let's see what we got here. The instructions in a bunch of different languages. Okay. Ooh. Some stickers. I think you put this on the edge of the card. I think we should do that. What should we call it? Is it a token ring adapter? Token ring adapter? Token ring court? I don't know. And of course, this. I don't actually know what to do with this. I'm pretty sure you do the setup utility thing, because this is an MCA card, just like we did with the McIDE. Why don't we read the instructions? I was wondering about this. So remember how I put the McIDE in the computer and then I updated the reference diskette? Clearly you're not supposed to do that. That's why it was confused and I couldn't find the card until I moved slots. You must update your backup copy of the reference diskette before putting it in the computer. So we'll do that first this time. Oh, also I need to ask my network administrator which data rate, 4 or 16. Good news, I am the network administrator and I know we're running at 4. In a future video, we will experiment with 16 and actually measure stuff and maybe do something useful with the network. I think I know what I need to know. Like I said in the beginning, the reference diskette is absolutely critical. This is the original card from the machine, and you can see someone took their sticker out of their package and put token ring adapter on there, so you can see what these cards are at a glance, as if it's not painfully obvious. It's kind of a funny little feature. It'd be cool to cut this out. That's actually a sticker. Stick that somewhere. That's kind of cool. Back to our old friend. You know the drill by now. I'm going to copy an option diskette. This is a 1 megabyte floppy, not a 1.44. Let's see what this floppy drive has to say about that. I liked it. We're all good. Put the ref disk back in. So if you were using these back in the day and you were configuring the machine a lot and switching cards and stuff, did they ever fill up? Like, because obviously the reference disk is growing here. I'm putting more and more drivers on it. What I messed up before is I didn't do that first. Now I'm going to throw the token ring card right there. I don't know if this one works, though no reason to believe it doesn't. I like to say that every time. This is a long boy. Whoa, takes the whole chassis up. Okay, that's good. I am liking the look of getting a lot of cards in there. We'll have the reference disk in. I'll be quick and boot from A. Got into the ref disk. It knows an adapter has shown up. These PS2s are kind of slick. I'm kind of into it. I shouldn't have said that. Reading the option adapter file for the adapter in slot doesn't like the file on the disk. Maybe that was just some floppy funny business. It thinks everything's fine now. I'm going to leave the ref disk in because I want to see if I can see that card and configure it. When it sees a card it doesn't know about or one has been removed, you get error 165 right here. Yeah, that's not good. At least I was telling the truth. It can't boot from the reference disk anymore. It sits like this. There's something about putting a token ring card in your fresh machine that just destroys it. We're back. When in doubt, full power cycle. Yeah, still hasn't installed the adapter. It's possible that adapter card is not the right one for the drivers that were on that disk, or even this disk could be damaged. I don't know. Yeah, it does not like it. I've got like a lot more of these, all with the identical diskette. It says 16F1138. This is a different one. Let's try putting this on the reference disk, and maybe it was just a disk issue. Look how good the artwork is on the documentation. Way more accurate than it needed to be. This thing boots so fast and so well into DOS, I keep missing the press A prompt. The other disk didn't work. I suppose we could try the original card. I think what we're having is a driver disk issue, though. Don't think it's a physical issue with these cards. See what happens. That didn't work. I'm going to write a fresh version of the disk from an image online. Been spending a lot of time looking at this screen, this video. All this physical disk business is, of course, entirely avoidable. I have a floppy drive emulator, one of these GoTech ones, but I don't know how to use it. And you got to set some jumpers and stuff. So yeah, I want to kind of update the firmware on this thing before I start using it and get to know it. So we're going to use real floppies for now. Look forward to this in future videos. I really need to repair some more floppy drives. I have a huge stack of them and none of them are working right. Okay, last try. Yeah, that did not work. But that's fine. We'll dedicate an entire video to getting this thing on token ring. It's pretty instrumental to my plans. Let's see if it'll boot to PC-DOS without a floppy drive attached at all. We'll pull out our token ring card just so we can get the case back on here and see what it would have looked like, you know, back in the day. It complained about a 601 error and a 162, but it looks like we're booting. We are booted. Excellent. I am absolutely going to mod this in some way. It gets ridiculously hot towards the back here. Also, what the heck is this? It's like way off the top of the case. The 3D printed bracket for the McIDE. I'll let you know if I have to clip that off. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Sheesh. Earlier I had mentioned there's just one of these thumb screws. But clearly one of mine is missing. I think there were supposed to be two. There's one last thing I would like to show you. This is an IBM Personal System 2 monochrome display, a model 8503. It's of course not quite right to pair with this 50Z with its color VGA graphics capabilities, but a lot of these would have just been sitting on top of one of these, and someone at the office would have been running spreadsheets all day long. This monitor was generously donated by a very long time patron and friend of the channel, Brooke. Brooke has sent in a lot of amazing stuff over the years. I unboxed this thing over on Patreon. We were pretty nervous as to whether or not it had made it. I haven't powered it up yet. We'll do that together right now. And that Model 30 I was showing you earlier also came from Brooke. It was paired with this monitor. So a huge thanks to Brooke, as always, for sending in just absolutely incredible gear I thought I would never get my hands on. It worked when Brooke shipped it, of course. So we're gonna power it on over here. No explosions, green light, that's good. Well, let's turn the computer on and see what we get. Yeah, it's working just fine. I'm not gonna be able to capture this very well, but that is just what it should look like. Wish I could get rid of this glare for you. Yeah, this is so cool to see in person. Check this out. It just looks incredible. Let's get into the DOS directory. Scroll down some more. I mean, this is what it is supposed to look like. This is exactly, maybe color, but exactly how a lot of people experienced these IBM PS2 machines back in the day. It is such a thrill to see this. It's got some very minimal burn-in on the screen, meaning the same thing was showing up for hours and hours and hours for years and years and years, and actually burnt into the screen. But other than that, it is an incredible shape. The picture looks perfect. I have not used a monitor like this in probably 30 years. I am so excited we got this 50Z working. I'm thrilled that this monitor works perfectly. What a sight. Going forward, of course, I'll figure out how to get these token ring adapters installed properly. I'm sure I'm just doing something wrong. I find it very hard to believe they're not installable. Maybe using the Gotek floppy will give us more options and solve that problem. I'm not sure. Getting token ring in here will be pretty instrumental. I want to turn this into a server for remote initial program loading. Remote initial program loading lets you boot an OS over token ring, in my case here, onto a machine that doesn't have a hard drive. I've got a pair of these 55SXs, one of which I know is fully functional with no hard drive, that are perfect candidates for this Ripple boot stuff. So look forward to that. In future videos, you will be seeing this thing again. I just picked up a 2 MB RAM upgrade for it. Aside from the token ring card headaches, I think a lot of that is just gonna be software headaches, so should be fun. I have to give a bunch of shout outs. Of course, Brooke for sending in the monitor and that Model 30. Pizza the Hut over at the Serial Port Discord. I bounced some ideas about fixing that broken cap we went through in this video off of them. And a viewer and patron named Fix2 for sending in a second Model 55SX that hopefully will get Ripple booting. And in fact, that was their modded VGA cable with the pin missing I used in this video, which came in handy. I've always been enamored by the way the PS2 line looks and its connection to token ring, but I've never actually been hands-on with it until the last few weeks, and I must say, I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully you are too, because we're going to have some more PS2 content on the way. Speaking of the Serial Port Discord, if you subscribe to my $5 and up Patreon tier, you get access to that, along with some behind the scenes, unboxing, and early release videos. I'm ecstatic that we fixed this thing, and it's working great. I'm going to go out and buy like 3 more McIDEs. Excellent product. I hope I see you in the next video.